Ethan. Welcome. So
Good
excited to
morning.
have you, especially since some of my colleagues and other prior guests on the show have spoken so highly of you. This was like a highly anticipated interview. So I'm finally talking to the Ethan Wall.
I'm excited to be here and I hope to live up to those lofty expectations.
Oh, yes, thank you. Well, you travel a lot, so obviously you have a full, I want to say a full perspective of law and the way it runs in other countries and things like that. So we'll definitely hit on that topic as well. But for now, I want to focus more on your social media law firm. And can you tell us a little bit about those experiences and establishing all that good stuff?
Yeah, so I had the absolute pleasure of being an associate with the Richmond Greer law firm for about 8 years.
Wow.
And I learned how to practice law the right way from some really wonderful attorneys, paralegals, assistants. Everyone there was just a first-class family environment, and I loved it to death. At the same time while I was there, I started researching the effect of social media on the law. And it published a few books called The Social Media Guide for Lawyers. And I remember my first ever speaking engagement as an attorney was to a South Florida paralegal association about the effect of social media on the law. And that
Hmm.
really started the ball rolling where people in the audience were like, wow, you're great at speaking about social media and no one else is doing this. Would you come speak here? This led to me doing more research, more speaking events, writing more books, and realizing that I really had a wonderful opportunity in life to be probably one of the first attorneys to focus on the effect of social media and the law. And so it got to a point where I was working for a wonderful litigation firm, wearing a suit and tie every day and helping people in a big way. Or I kind of had the choice to chart my own path in life and to focus all of my time around teaching, speaking, and helping people with legal issues that relate to social media and the law. And so I ultimately decided to leave the private litigation practice, form a company called Social Media Law and Order, which at the time was just focused on speaking and teaching and writing and consulting with companies about social media legal issues. And then people kept coming to me for legal work. And I said, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it my way. And I created the social media law firm, which has no billable hours. I don't use Microsoft Excel. I don't go to court. I don't wear a tie ever. And I can travel around the world running the firm from my laptop, but also helping people in a way that makes a big difference to help to protect and grow businesses that use social media. And everything's done kind of on a flat fee basis with me and my paralegal, who's my right hand. And that's kind of how I've been living for the last 5 years.
Oh my God, that is amazing. That's like the ultimate life right there. And I'm so envious right now, especially a mother of two toddlers. I would love an escape right now. So that's amazing. Can you tell us a little bit how social media has really, I guess, transformed, especially during the pandemic? I'm sure a lot of small businesses were suffering, a lot of pivoting had to happen. So how did that affect the entire, trajectory of your company and kind of, did you have to pivot or did anything like that had to happen for you?
Sure. At the very beginning, I would say that social media and the law was like the wild, wild west, where rules really kind of weren't developed. And back in about 2014, 2015, I was just beginning to try to carve out what are the rules of the road for social media and employment law, social media and trademark intellectual property law, and different types of social media contracts, and how do you protect against risks when you're using these online platforms to do businesses in regulated industries or otherwise. Things have began to shape up over the last 5 years, and now we've got a pretty well-sustained set of practice areas where we know that people have specific problems and have solutions that are able to help them. By late 2019 is when our firm went from having a big office in Wynwood, like a giant warehouse, which was like a workplay headquarters where we were showing Star Wars on the wall. We had a meditation station. We had a recording studio for
Ooh,
podcasting and stuff.
sounds awesome.
Um, it was awesome, but it wasn't for me. And so we went fully virtual and just liquidated the office. Employees can live anywhere in the world they want to, as long as we had our office set up here in Florida, because, Florida bar rules require it.
Exactly.
And I started becoming nomadic and traveling full time. And we were traveling full time for about 6 months prior to the pandemic starting. So when the pandemic hit, from an operational standpoint, we were so very fortunate because we were already set up to work logistically. This was business as usual. And even for the 3 years before then, I had a long-term relationship where I was flying every week to Tampa. So I'm used to being virtual anyway. So when the pandemic came, our firm was very well prepared, maybe perhaps by happenstance, just because we were used to running logistically and we had systems set up and operations manuals for how to do certain things and kind of methods for working remotely through Dropbox and Asana, which is our online project management tool, or Slack, which is our communication tool.
Yes,
So,
love Slack.
oh yeah, totally. We're on Slack all the time. And from a work perspective, I think, everyone was a little bit afraid and uncertain as to what would happen in the world of a pandemic. And for us, you know, and I mean this in kind of the most unusual way possible, but fortunately for us, more and more businesses had to rely on using social media and the internet to be able to move their business goals forward. More people were learning that, hey, this pandemic is going to be around for a while, and we have to take advantage of social media and apps and websites to reach our target market or promote our services or to accomplish our business goals.
Mm.
And so for us, we've been, life and business seems to be this like wave of ups and downs. And sometimes you're busy and sometimes you're not. And sometimes you're doing well in life and sometimes there are down moments. And those ups and down moments in life still happen. But from a business standpoint, things seem to have been very busy for us, so much so that my wonderful paralegal, who really is the boss and runs the show.
That's right.
Ethan, you got some choices here. We need more support. For me, because she wears all the hats, from being our lead paralegal to also running our operations and also running administration, to saying, look, I want to focus on the legal work full time. And we're finally at the point where it's been 9 months of it hasn't slowed down yet.
Wow,
And
that's
so
great.
looking to bring somebody in to help with the admin and operations side of it, to free her up to do what she's absolutely best at. Even though she's wonderful at all, she wants to sink her teeth into more and more of these projects. And so the pandemic has, I think, forced a lot of businesses to go virtual and has demonstrated to businesses that they need to do more things online, such as, banks or credit unions using LinkedIn more to perhaps create relationships and promote products and services. Other businesses have virtual employees almost full time now, and that is both a wonderful opportunity, but creates risk from an employment law standpoint when people are kind of communicating more and more online. And so as a result of that, we've been able to help, I think, more people during the pandemic, just because there's been more social media and online legal issues that has arose as the world has gone almost completely virtual.
Yeah, I believe from my standpoint, since I was always a freelance paralegal and offered project-based work, the actual pandemic helped my argument, saying that you don't really need somebody there 24/7 just twiddling their thumbs when you don't have that much of a caseload. So for me, it was actually a blessing. Everybody's like, how's your business going? I'm like, it's going great. They finally are listening to me. Everything, like the people that I reached out to years ago were like coming back to me and they're like, you were right. Like they noticed that there is, a wave of this and a necessity, especially in law. Like I get it, there's obviously like what you were mentioning about the employment and about, there are these little intricacies, but there's always ways around that. That's our job. Our job is to find ways around the barriers. So, through contracts, through agreements, through non-confidentials, all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. So I definitely agree with you on that. But now that we're on the paralegal topic and that you're bragging about this amazing paralegal, can you talk a little bit about the importance of the actual paralegal role, especially in your firm, right? Because I don't think you can really talk about it overall, but at least in your firm.
Sure. Well, first of all, the paralegal role isn't important. It's absolutely necessary. My firm would not be where it is without my paralegal. I would not be kind of who I am as a human being without my paralegal. So I've had the real pleasure of knowing, one, what it's like working with a wonderful team of litigation paralegals through 8 years of litigation practice. And now over the last 3 years, having a dedicated paralegal has really kind of changed my practice and changed my life in a few ways. And I'll kind of let you know what that means. So back, since you know a little bit more about the timeline now, I had started just being a solo practitioner. And that was kind of just me because I'm virtual and I didn't really want to make a ton of money and therefore have the money to support staff. But as things grew, I couldn't chase after my dreams and help more people without more help. And so originally I had taken on almost an assistant who was a second-year law student at the time named David. And once David came on board as kind of an assistant, I'm like, wow, it's just wonderful having someone there that cares as much as I do, who wants to learn from me, which was so unusual because at the time I was still young. I was maybe 8 years out. And I'm like, what do I have to teach people other than my unique philosophy and what I learned from the wonderful people at Richmond Greer, who thankfully taught me how to practice law the right way. So I was able to teach someone from the ground up, that you always do the right thing. It's not about the money. It's your ethics, your obligations, all of those things are most important. And we have to put those things into everything that we do, even if we are a modern, more casual type law firm. Okay. He then grew to be my paralegal. And with that, we were able to go into even higher heights. And then he became an associate. And, he had the whole world in front of him and got to the point where he was going to outgrow me. And that's really the burden of all mentors, is to have your mentees, take from you what they can and then set bigger and higher goals. But we got to a point where he needed to have a paralegal because now he's an associate, and we had hired a woman named Janine. And at the beginning, I remember kind of Janine walking into our law firm, and Janine was so incredibly unique. She is Jamaican, so she has these big dreadlocks, and she had these like library type glasses, right? Yeah. So remember, like, she had walked in and she kind of walks into this like funky vibe where people are playing video games on the wall, and she's in Wynwood, and she's like, this is
where am I?
Right. But she's like, cool, yeah. Janine is all about social justice issues. She's all about helping people in unique ways. In the beginning, she kind of worked with David, my associate, as his paralegal. As time moved on and I realized I couldn't keep sustaining the growth that we had had, and we had dips in our businesses as well. And David really wanted to do litigation, and he had never done that before, and I wanted to give it to him. We had decided that David was going to transition out of the firm so he can pursue his dream of litigation, something I had had the chance to do for 8 years, and he didn't. And Janine was then going to take over David's role. And instead of bringing on an associate, it was going to be Janine and I taking over the firm. And I can remember at that time, Janine had some very frank conversations with me to say like, hey, Ethan, like, this is a lot. Like, I believe in myself and I know that I can do it. But at the same point, let's see how this goes, because, I've never taken on this amount of responsibility before. Right. Fast forward 18 months and Janine is the boss. Not only does she run our office and the administration, she runs the operations for our firm and for kind of some of our sister type companies that I also run. And she's the lead paralegal that manages her entire caseload, all of her work. She is my right hand in all of those respects. And why I say that working with Janine has changed my life in a way is, prior to that, I used to struggle with narcissistic tendencies as someone that was, very driven, very determined, but also someone that was always on my own. So I was used to making all the decisions. And for a long time, that brought a large degree of success. But only listening to myself also led to painful failures in life and in business because I thought I had all the answers. Right. And it sometimes takes some very difficult decisions or failures in life or in business to say, wait a minute, maybe I don't have all the answers. And at that time, I remembered I need to start looking to people who I trusted and taking their advice as well, and realize that I may still have the ability to make all the decisions, because at the end of the day, it's my responsibility to make business decisions, clients' decisions, and make what I believe is the right call for my team. But if I don't take into an account the people that are running this thing alongside me, I will fail. And so I went from saying, cool, I'm going to make all the decisions myself, to Janine gets brought in on every major decision that we have. When we decided to expand our firm, she's like, Ethan, you're good. You're really good at practicing law and you're a really good visionary, but you're not really good with money. So we should have an accountant. We hired an accountant. Now I listen to the accountant and now the money situation's good. But what I mean by that is one thing that I think makes our firm so great is that Janine, I am her boss, quote unquote, in the sense that I'm responsible. I am her supervisor of sorts, but that's not the role that we have when it comes to running our cases and making decisions. And Janine's brought in on all of the big decisions, and her philosophy of how she approaches things, because she does things differently, has what produced our unique types of success. We can see things from different angles. She understands the big picture goals and she understands the work, but she also sees things from her view and her perspective. And more often than not, when I say, you know what, I'm not sure what the right decision is, but I trust you, let's do it, it's producing terrific outcomes in life and in business. And so there's just been, no better decision that I think that I have made from, a business standpoint than to have Janine be kind of my right hand and to make sure that we make our decisions together in life and in business. And as a result of that, it's been a wonderful, wonderful circumstance and a wonderful scenario. So it's not just important to have a paralegal who you trust. It's absolutely necessary because let's face it, they know better than you. And it's important for us to make sure.
You said it, not me.
That's right.
I mean, I have to say you are one of the lucky ones. A lot of attorneys struggle with that. And, they come to me all the time and they're like, do you have anybody that you trust that can come? Because not a lot of, I have to say, as a paralegal myself, not a lot of paralegals are Janine, right? Not a lot of people take that care or see their job in, and it could be for many reasons. Everybody has their issues, everybody has their demons that they're trying to fight, so we're not going to pin it all on that. But also, the education, right? Because, you can have 20 years plus experience, but you've only been trained on certain tasks. Like you were strictly a litigator and you converted into, pretty much contractual work and things like that. So just like attorneys have their different niches, paralegals do too. Some paralegals are only trained in personal injury. Some people are only in family law. So we all have our shortcomings, but I think with the paralegals and the reason why I think it's so hard is because we go to paralegal school, but they don't teach us how to actually be a paralegal, right? Kind of like law school. You go in there, you learn the practicing part. That's why it's called a practice. You learn it after. So I think that's what it is. And we need more Janines in this world in order to really survive in the legal industry. And hopefully, with these podcasts and these conversations, we'll get there one day.
Yes, well, I'm sorry you can't have her. I have told Janine she can never leave, and I always try to create the environment where she's always happy. Janine knows everything about our firm. She knows the finances, she knows our client caseload, she knows the payroll for all of our other companies, and that type of complete truthfulness and complete transparency, I hope has established a relationship of trust where she knows whatever personal projects or outside endeavors that she wants to do, she has the freedom to go ahead and do it. We have a very, very informal structure here at the firm. There's no days off. What I mean by that is that we're adults. Janine's an adult. All my team is adults, and I brought them into the team because we share the same values and we trust each other. So there's no time off and there's unlimited time off, and it's kind of like we all kind of treat each other not really like an employer-employee relationship, but kind of like how friends treat each other, with that degree of respect. And so you're right. There are not many Janines out there, and I wish there were more people like Janine, or I can clone her and you can borrow her clone.
Oh, I'll take her. I'll take her anytime.
No, for sure. But it's true. And in fact, at one of my sister companies, which is a marketing agency, I realized that I can't produce the success that Janine and I had produced together at the law firm at another company, which is my marketing agency, unless I was able to bring a right hand in there as well. I guess you could say a left hand. And I remembered we had spent, and you and I had talked about this either right before we got into the podcast, so I hope I'm not stealing the topic away, but
No,
we had hired someone to be my left hand at our marketing agency. And just like that, we opened the door to this person as a member of our family, and we showed them the ropes, and we spent 3 weeks onboarding them. And I flew out to Colorado to be able to kind of welcome and greet them and bring them on and basically hand them over to the keys to one of our dreams. And within a couple weeks, we just got an email out of the blue that this person was ghosting and they were never heard from ever again.
I can't believe that.
And
I'm a big believer of not burning bridges. You know, it's a small world, so what goes around comes around, kind of thing. But hey,
totally. And for someone like me personally, I took it very hard because this was a member of our family. And, we took it very hard because we're small. And I remember being blindsided by it. But I remember Janine said something to me that you mentioned a few minutes ago, Ida, and that is, she's like, look, Ethan, I don't mean this in like a crass way at all, but there aren't many people out there like me. And there aren't many people out there like David, who was, assistant paralegal and then associate, who, when David and I left, like, we were both crying. We were both like, we want to both accomplish our dreams, and we just can't accomplish them together. And it's better for us to go do our own things. And now both of us are accomplishing our dreams. And we got back together for coffee a few weeks ago, just laughing and joking about how all we wanted to do was to be able to accomplish our dreams together. But we couldn't because we wanted slightly different things out of life. David was more traditional, suit and tie, very serious, very business minded. And I'm a homeless nomad traveling the world, wanting to be virtual and practice my law practice wearing Lululemon.
Love it. Hey, not judging. There's no judgment. This is a no judgment zone.
Thank you. And I think it's just important to live authentically. And this is kind of me in my life and my practice. And my clients know it, and my clients appreciate it. And they know that I care deeply and do great work, but also I'm not gonna be wearing a suit. I'm not working at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm gonna be on video calls in kind of like a polo, like with pajama pants.
I love it though. I
yes.
think that you're changing the narrative too. Like, having said that with the polo and everything, you're changing the narrative because everybody sees attorneys, like you said, suit and tie, going to court, doing all this. And I recently saw a post on, I think it was on LinkedIn, but I forgot the actual like link of it. But it was a woman, she had tattoos. And she's like, everybody told me I couldn't be a young mom, I couldn't be an attorney with tattoos, like everything, there's this perception or this like outline that you have to be because you're this particular profession, but really it's not like that anymore. As long as you know your stuff, as long as you have a good reputation, you keep that reputation, you're respectful, you're human, right? Because like, let's go back to that, put the human back in humanity. Hello. I think you'll survive and you'll succeed and you'll be whatever you want to be. I mean, that's the best thing about America, right? That's the American dream.
Yeah, totally. And in fact, you'll thrive. Like, in life, you should decide what to be and go be it. Like, whatever it is that you want to be, you can do that. And this conception that the law has to be super professional, super rigid, suit and tie, fall in line is bullshit. In fact, I remember I was that suit and tie lawyer. Okay, I buttoned up, I shaved my beard, I looked weird, but I remember back in 2008. So I've been practicing a whopping 2 years at that point. And one of my mentors, Olympia Duhart at Nova Southeastern University, invited me to come speak at a symposium to law school because she was like, oh, you do internet law, that's different. And she was bringing high school kids in to kind of learn about this type of stuff. And I was going to play like, I don't know, rap music and like talk about copyright law because I'm not cool. I don't really know what's going on, but I like Googled some stuff. But next to me was this guy named Sean Thompson. Sean Thompson worked for, it was a personal injury attorney, Black man, a couple years older than me. He had like short little dreads in his hair, okay, wearing like a button-down shirt and a suit. And I can see these tattoos up his neck and like down his sleeve as well. And when he worked this room and talked to these kids, you know that this was not only an outstanding attorney, but he was an outstanding human being. This guy was sharp and personable and caring and genuine and authentic and just the opposite of what I would have thought a successful attorney looked like. And nothing to do with the color of his skin, but it had to do with the fact that he had neck tattoos and like arm tattoos. And I'm like, really? Like, that's cool. And I kind of realized, like, wait a minute, my conception of what, an attorney would look like, man or woman dressed super, to the lines of being whatever, was a stereotype. And I was stereotyping at the time. And I realized, no, you can be who you want to be and be absolutely great. And I think now you don't learn lessons in life until you go ahead and make mistakes, or perhaps make stereotypes or make misconceptions, things that I'm guilty of having done. But at the same time, I think that everything in life changes, and the law is like a big ocean liner that like changes really slowly,
Wow.
right? It's got a twist. And so we go work for people that we respect and admire who know how to do things their way. And that's how the law was. And it has to be like very stuffy and get in the morning and all these different billable hours. And you got to fall in line and you got to do these things. And you know what? That may work for them, but it doesn't mean that it has to work for us. And it doesn't mean that it has to apply in today's day and age. And so the woman that you had seen on LinkedIn, me, Sean Thompson from 11 years ago, brother, when you're out there listening to this, you know that you hope to change people's
Shout out.
perceptions. That's right. But it's important to realize that you can be your authentic self. In fact, you need to be your authentic self in order to be successful. We can't be everybody else. Those people are all taken by other people.
That's right.
And so regardless of your interests, your passions, how you dress, the color of your hair, like whatever you want to like paint on your body, it doesn't matter. We can still be great lawyers and great human beings, regardless of how we look or how we practice or how we dress. Those things don't matter. What matters is your commitment to your clients. What matters is your outlook, and are you listening and empathetic to what those needs are, or are you just fighting just for fighting's sake? You know, are you trying to help people, or are you trying to make a boatload of money? If you're trying to make it a boatload of money, you may, but you're probably not going to be happy. And if you're going to help people, then you're going to be happy, and then the money's going to come because people are going to want to work with you because you do the right things. And so, you know,
authenticity is very important. And I'm obsessed with Kelly Clarkson. For those that know me out there, they know that I'm like obsessed with her. And now she has a talk show, and she was being interviewed a couple of shows ago, and I was actually preparing for workshops and interviews at that point. So it came at a really good point on my brainstorming session. And I wasn't really like watching the show, but I was like listening to it because I was really in the, like the zone, when we get in that zone and you're just like really focused. And all of a sudden the guest that was on the show said, I love you because you're so yourself. And her response was so Kelly. She said, I'm too lazy to be anybody else. And I'm like, that was like amazing, right? Because it's so true. Like you said, you are you. There's nobody like you. And that goes for everything though, like marketing yourself, a small business, entrepreneurship, whatever it is, you have to be yourself. I'm like Kelly Clarkson said, I'm too lazy to be anybody else.
That's right. I remember watching The Greatest Showman recently.
I love that.
And I was like, okay, this movie's kind of cheesy. Not sure if I'm really getting into it because, musicals wasn't my thing. And then I remember seeing the narrative with the people that worked in the circus and how they're all different and how they're outcasts and how that's kind of how they were treated in the beginning. But through their own character transformation in the film, they then have the scene in the song, This Is Me,
Yes.
And I was just like, hell yeah, that's who you are. You own this, like be you. And I was like empowered. I remember I was like, I was at the Florida Bar Affiliate Outreach Conference unveiling our stigma-free YLD program to basically help to end the stigma over mental illness within the legal profession, to let attorneys, paralegals know if you're struggling with depression, anxiety, stress, or bipolar disorder, alcoholism, whatever, these things happen, okay?
Life happens.
Life happens, and by getting help for it, it's not a sign of weakness. We're not supposed to be perfect. It's a sign of strength. And I remember preparing for this big speech where I was going to address with my own, emotional vulnerabilities and connecting into this larger thing. I remember I was on the treadmill beforehand, getting myself psyched up, and I had This Is Me, on repeat. And I'm like, hell yeah, look out, 'cause here I come. And I walk to the beat of a different drum.
I love it.
And that's the authenticity, like this is me. And, regardless of who's out there, if you're listening to this and you're thinking to yourself, man, like I haven't been myself because I don't think that I can be because I got to fit into these boxes. Well, take that box and just break that thing open. No, you can be yourself. And by being yourself and being authentically you, which is Kelly Clarkson said, some of us are too lazy to be, but it's really all we can be.
Exactly.
You're going to be living your best life. You're doing your best work and probably being happier because you just break down all those walls of who you thought that you needed to be and instead just be you because you're awesome.
That's right. So are you. I went through that a lot. Actually, that was the whole reason why I opened up Etta Rosa LLC. I was a recent mom. I saw myself in, like, you, kind of similar to your story, where I was in the corporate, you know, Fort Lauderdale, Las Olas. I had the corner office, I had the window, I had the beach view, I had everything I wanted. I had the money, everything, you know, all my boxes were checked at that point. I was a mom, I was happily married. I had it all, basically, right? Like the perfect American dream. And I still wasn't happy. There was still something there. And I said to myself, why am I not happy? I literally accomplished everything I ever wanted. I was the executive paralegal. I was the left hand of, you know, this top-notch, you know, corporate law attorney. And, you know, life was great, quote unquote. And I still wasn't, you know, I still didn't feel me. Like you said, I wasn't authentic to myself. And that was it. I left. I opened up Etta Rosa LLC, and ever since then I haven't looked back. And it's just been amazing because it's that sense of freedom that you're actually doing what you want to do, but on your own terms. You're not like under somebody else's terms. So I love your business model to kind of tie it back into what you were saying about how there's no days off, but there are days off. You know, it's just get the work done. You guys know what to do. You guys are adults, and I love that, and I'm definitely going to take that from you. So just
all
FYI.
yours. Sure thing.
Well, Ethan, it was a pleasure meeting you. You are an amazing person, an amazing attorney, and I hope there are more attorneys and legal professionals out there listening to this that can kind of, you know, really take in that business model, because it's really what the legal industry needs right now. We really need a desperate reform and education reform, and you're being awesome, and, you know, being that person along with all my other guests on the show have been really a breath of fresh air. So I appreciate you, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. And I'm going to continue following you on LinkedIn and looking at all your travels.
Thank you, Ida. Appreciate being here.
You're welcome. You have a good one.